The object. There was some wild stuff out there. I mean, you saw some wild formations and loose lips. Boy, I couldn't believe after Wednesday's meet today that all those boys were talking about the 6 DB when we kicked you guys out of practice so you wouldn't. And and that's our fault for not explaining to them. I assumed that they would try and keep that to their advantage, and they didn't. But there was the only chance we had to get pressure on the quarterback, and we had to keep him from being in a great rhythm. I thought Coach Leese did a great job in the second half and the third quarter. Those two drives, we had some different things for the screens, and they kept going right behind our head. I mean, I swear I thought we was going to intercept a couple of those, and he did a great job placing the ball right behind our dropper's head. We were good on third downs. 5 of 13 against this offense is really good, and I thought that last stop to hold them to a field goal when they got the ball in the 36 to 40, whatever it was huge. And then big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games, and Jaden Daniels was rock star on that last time. He dished that thing out like it was awesome, and so we won.
Was that a hard call not to decline the penalty late there in the fourth?
Yes, because that 4th and 3, they were killing us on the 4th and 3s. I wanted to take that because give them a chance to have to complete a long first down as opposed, because I think they would have went for it on 4th and 3 because they were having such success with their short ones. But I thought, they fought their tails off. They hit us on some. The third quarter was the most destructive in my mind because we gave up the 2 touchdowns, and they did a good job. We had guys in the right spot. We just didn't make plays. The 2 touchdowns in the first half, that was disappointing because one is zone coverage. We should intercept that ball on the touchdown. The deep middle safety jumps the dig route when he should be intercepting that ball. And then the other one, the roughing the passer and the pass interference. They got 2 big penalties, and then we have an assignment error on the touchdown. The guy that's supposed to be sitting there squeezing the slant jumps in the flat. So those were disappointing, but the 17 points, we were able to recover. We made a punt a few times, and then the fourth quarter they played a lot better. We made a couple of adjustments pass rush wise. That was our only chance was to get pressure. And the reason we had 2 D linemen out there and 3 linebackers and 6 DBs is because you got to give your best players. Our D linemen aren't the ones that are doing the pass rush right now. So we had to come up with some exotic stuff. And when you line up a 5 and a 5 and nobody across the front and they can't run the ball, you're doing something right. And they had the one run that popped, but I think they had 30-some yards rushing on. They're averaging 100. And you would think when you show them a 5-man box that they would run the ball. And that's what we were trying to talk them into doing. They didn't want to do it because they tried a couple times early and they couldn't.
So you're talking about the 4th down call late in the second quarter.
4th down call late in the second quarter.
When they ran.
That was. So we were trying to run a stunt with the linebackers in there to get penetration. The guard did a good job of cutting off the linebacker so he couldn't get in the backfield, and they were able to mush it forward for a couple yards. But that's gonna happen. The later on one, 4th down.
When you stopped them on 4th and 5.
Yes, that was it. Just trying to. They did a good job. I'll give their old line coaches a lot of credit because our up the middle pressures that we were trying to get in his face, they did a good job of mushing those up. Okay. We did a better job on the edge of beating those guys. Then they really had a hard time blocking Evan Fields off the edge. Evan played his tail off. It didn't come with sack production, but the quarterback felt very uncomfortable, and so a lot of those throws over the top he wasn't able to make, which he's been really good at all year.
The amount of pressure that you brought, was that kind of what you anticipated doing coming in?
Yes. I didn't. You saw we tried to play a little bit of zone in the second quarter, and you saw what happened. They went right down the field because we can't get pressure right now with 3 guys. And if you can't get pressure with 3 guys, there's too much space, and they're too good, and they're too well coached in space. They find the windows. So we tried to mix it up a little bit of zone to try and mess with his eyes. Now, what we did in the fourth quarter is we used some droppers that made it look like zone to the receivers, so they were cutting off some of their routes, and then we were playing man coverage behind it, so a lot of the DBs were making plays. So the big deal in the fourth quarter wasn't trying to mess with the quarterback anymore. It was trying to mess with the receiver to get them to miss reads on the zone and the man, and then see if we can get the pressure. And it was really good. It was really good because we got a lot of pressure to him because the receivers were seeing those guys zone up, and then we're chasing them, so they're stopping in the holes. We're getting pressure on him because he was holding the ball. He was trying to throw it, and he was holding it. If we would have done that a little bit early in the third quarter, it might have helped on some of those slants. We were dropping guys right in front of him, but we were dropping just at a bad angle, and he was throwing it right behind him.
You like this at the end of the defense to really show up in the fourth quarter, even the loss in Colorado. You guys made a lot of plays in that final frame. Are you happy at least with that aspect so far?
You know what? I'm happy with we're still young. We still are developing some things up front. I think Coach Kane has done a great job with those guys. in forms of technique and stuff. I mean, Jermaine and Rowe and even Matus there at the end were really, really good with the pass rush stuff and cleaning stuff up for the linebackers. The best part about the young group was in the fourth quarter on the sideline, when our offense was driving, they were paying attention to the coaching. They weren't watching the drive. So I couldn't even tell you how we scored, and neither could our players, which is a really good sign of somebody handling the situation well, because I knew we were going to have to go out there and play defense. There was a chance we were going to have to play defense again. And so we were making sure on the board that we were assignment sound up front. Now, in the coverage-wise, we were trying to do some of that stuff to disguise him. I think we had a couple guys that were running loose, but we got enough pressure he couldn't find them. So the idea of it that they're paying attention and growing up was really good because they took to some coaching at the end there.
So how high level of a chess match was that between you and Leach?
I thought in the third quarter he had me. I thought we got him in the fourth quarter. They did a good job with their screens. We didn't redirect very well. I think they came out in the third quarter and thought they could run the ball, and they still couldn't. I mean, when you got a defensive end outside the tackle and a defensive end outside the tackle and nobody else, you would think you should be able to run the ball. And you got to give Coach Edwards a lot of credit, because I worked on this stuff and with the defensive coaches, and so when we started installing it, there's a lot of head coaches that have said, and if we'd have played our base, in my opinion, we'd have probably been giving up 700 yards and they'd probably scored 60 points. I mean, I really didn't feel confident with the group that we had out there that we could get to the quarterback unless we did something exotic. And Coach Edwards gave us the green light to do whatever we wanted. And the kids bought in, they played hard, and we still gave up 460 yards passing. But we were really good on third downs when it was important, and we were good in the fourth quarter.
They kept going back to that slant. Were they kind of picking on Jack on that?
Well, Jack was supposed to have help. And so the guys that were dropping right past it instead of right in front of it.
Yeah.
And then the fourth quarter, we did it one time and they didn't do it anymore. Jack did a really good job. He drove it a couple times later, makes a great play on it, and then the guy breaks the tackle and he gets 15 yards. The very first play of the third quarter, we have him for a 3-yard gain. We miss the tackle and it goes for about 40. Those are the little things we need to clean up on. Now they run that little slant route and the guy stops them and he takes off on you. It's really hard to adjust to if you don't get pressure, and that was why we had to go with getting more pressure in the fourth quarter back to, as opposed to trying to let our guys make plays in zone. We just weren't good enough.
How do you sum up the significance of this win, as opposed to going 0-2 to start at home in the Pac-12 and also setting up Utah?
Huge. I think the biggest thing about this win is we kind of took the other approach. We've been talking about, don't listen to all the outside noise. It was more this week, if you want to be about it, then talk about it. Don't hide that we're the 18th ranked team. Go out there and perform like the 18th ranked team. Now, we did at times and we didn't at times, but we found a way to win. And a young group finding a way to win is very encouraging, because there's enough guys out there. Players make plays. We made enough plays to win the football game. Jaden made unbelievable plays and throws in that last drive, and then we made enough plays on defense in the secondary and pressure up front that we were able to win the game. And so we're taking the approach of don't be afraid to talk about it. If this is the light we want to live in and be on the national spotlight and compete for big-time bowls and stuff, well, then we can't be afraid to talk about it. So they heard about it this week. I don't know if it made a difference, but we won. So we'll keep talking about it, and hopefully we can keep building on it and going into, we'll start working on Utah tonight and put this one to bed.
How easy or hard was it to make that decision, taking that final timeout, and Washington State did not have a timeout?
Not at all, because with the Hail Mary, I wanted to make sure, we practice that every Thursday. We walk through it. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing, if you watch every Hail Mary in America, you coach your guys to the guys that are running down with those guys, box them out, make sure you end up with 7 defensive guys trying to jump and knock down the ball, and then an offensive guy tips it. So we reminded our guys, make sure you guys box them out. We got a jumper, make sure we handle that. And then up front, you guys just pin your ears back and go. And we got pressure on him, he couldn't throw it. And that time was worth it. It didn't bother me that they didn't have one, because they got one play. It's a Hail Mary. Everybody knows what it is. Make sure that you're organized so that we don't make a mistake.
Turk has been good, but then he has kind of a shank punt.
He's human, and I thought that was huge.
For you guys to come up then.
Yeah, we gave up the first route on a deep over. Cam Phillips tackled him, and then we had the 4th and 3 where they got the holding. We knocked them back, and they went for a third down. They got about 8 yards, and then they kicked the field goal, and then they call a stinking timeout when he missed it, and then they work to their advantage, and then they make the field goal. But then our offense, it was awesome once again. Poise, man. 2 minutes, 29 seconds I think was on the clock, and we have 3 timeouts. There was no panic, and you got to give Coach Edwards credit there, because that's the demeanor that he's taught this team and the coaches and Jaden. And that's just who Jaden is. There was no panic. There was some really good throws right there in those moments that a true freshman shouldn't make. So, I mean, he's got a bright future if we can keep him healthy and hold him to one less point, we'll win a bunch of games.
Last question, anyone has it?
The second grade talked a lot about this week about knowing that they're going to give up a bunch of the receptions, but it still has to be incredibly frustrating. What does it say about the fortitude?
They kept fighting. I mean, every time over on the sideline, we just kept telling them, hey, just keep fighting. Your chance is going to come to keep making plays. Keep fighting, keep fighting, keep fighting. And, I mean, these guys they're the best passing offense in the country, and they've been that way for a long time because it's all they do. They do 7-on-7, they do skelly. I mean, their timing routes, when you watch them in warm-ups, I mean, I wanted our guys to look away. It's intimidating because they are so perfect and precise. And both their quarterbacks are unbelievable. And I said it during the week, I think Coach Leach is the best quarterback coach in the history of this game. And our only chance was to get him uncomfortable. And I think we did a good job of getting him uncomfortable because, I mean, as many throws as he did make, there was a bunch that he didn't. And 5 of 13 on third downs, I mean, that was the difference in the game. And then us holding to a field goal and our guys going down and scoring a touchdown, that was the difference. So, I mean, we still have a long way to go. We're building something pretty good. We made progress today, even though we gave up 460 yards and 31 points, but we made plays when it counted to win. And we're doing that with a bunch of freshmen, sophomores, and I mean, I'm really happy for them, and I'm really proud of them how hard they fought. We're still not very good, in my opinion. We'll get there, but if you don't have the fight that they have, you got no chance. And so I'm proud of them for that. And I'll go home now and watch it and be miserable, and I'll be miserable and knowing that we won. So that's good.
Can't be that miserable.
Appreciate it. We won. Oh, when I watch the tape, I'll be miserable, I promise. But we won. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you guys.